Hi everybody, welcome to another Chats with Children. I hope you're safe and well. It's a lovely afternoon here in Surrey. And today I'm continuing my series where I'm meeting senior life science executives to talk about what the learnings and positives we can get from 2020 and look ahead to what we can expect for this year and beyond. And today I'm delighted to be joined by Simon Tasker, who is CEO of Colorcon. And he's calling in from Philadelphia, and it looks sunny where you are, Simon. Lovely to see you. How are you?
Hello, Rizwan. It's a beautiful day here in Pennsylvania. It's early in the year, so we still have the potential for more snowstorms to come. But right now it's beautiful out there, although cold.
Oh, right. Yeah, well, I can tell by your accent actually that you're a Brit by birth, and I have to say the UK hasn't had a lot of snow. We've had a little bit, but not too much actually so far. So we're quite lucky. And you know what it's like, if it snows in the UK, everything comes to a standstill anyway because we're not geared up for snow, particularly down south. So.
Absolutely, I think we're on our third or fourth snowstorm here. So the snow shovel has become my friend.
All right. Well, before we start looking back at last year, perhaps you can tell people a little bit about Colorcon for those not familiar with it, and also your background as well, because I know you've traveled quite a bit all over the place as well.
Sure, yeah, I'll be happy to. For those of you that don't know, I mean, Colorcon is really the world leader in the manufacture and supply of excipients for use primarily in pharmaceuticals and in solid dosages. So we specialize in immediate release, delayed release, and controlled release types of technologies. And we have an operation that spans the globe. So we have facilities in more than 11 countries and technical development labs spread across 22 locations around the world. So we are a global supplier to the pharmaceutical industry, and we have a very extensive network of service capabilities.
Right. And your background?
My background, I'm a chemist by training. I joined Colorcon in 1996 in the UK. Interestingly enough, and I joined at our facility in the southeast of England in Kent, but very quickly found the opportunity to kind of spread my wings a little bit and expand my involvement in the company in other respects. So I actually transferred to Pennsylvania, and I transferred as a technical support representative. So I was supporting a lot of customers in the northeast of the US and across the country. Moved from technical roles into more marketing-based roles into sales. And then I had an opportunity to relocate to Asia. I ended up basing myself out of Shanghai, China for almost 8 years, where I had the privilege of operating the business out there in East Asia. And then I relocated back to the US in 2016, worked in the strategic marketing group and our strategic business development group, before having the privilege of operating the Americas region. So this would be North, Central, and South America. And then as of January of this year, I'm very excited to be taking over the reins as the CEO of Colorcon.
So you really have worked your way up through the company then, Simon?
Absolutely. I mean, it seems like just yesterday when I joined, but as I look back and I think about the fact that I'm coming up on 25 years with the company, it's amazing in that sense, as I reflect on the opportunities I've had with Colorcon, the career I've had, and I've met some amazing people along the way. I mean, and that's really what sustained me throughout. The customers that I've had the opportunity to interface with, and some of the people inside the organization have really made it a special experience.
Fantastic. Well, congratulations anyway then on your recent promotion.
Thank you very much.
So let's talk about 2020. Obviously, a year like no other. So let's start with a very simple question. How would you describe 2020 in one word and why?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. That's a tough one. I mean, I'm not sure, for the purpose of your viewers, that we could really talk about the one word I would describe 2020 from a personal perspective. So if you'll allow me, I mean, I could certainly speak to how I think Colorcon and the team in Colorcon responded to the circumstances arising in 2020. And I think the word that best really encapsulates it for me is courageous.
Right.
The team really took on board the challenges that we all faced in 2020, personal and professional. And I will say that it's amazing to me how they're able to kind of step up and meet those challenges kind of head on. Not easy for any of us, but I think the bravery that the team showed in kind of adjusting to these new circumstances and being able to stay very focused on delivering our commitments was very impressive.
Right, fantastic. And how, in terms of your objectives, were you able to achieve the objectives you started out the year with by the end of the year? I mean, because there were a lot of changes, obviously, lots of things that impacted. Yeah. So how did you as a business manage to achieve those objectives you set it out with at the start of the year?
Yeah, it's interesting. We started the year in the early part of the year we actually had a global commercial leadership and sales meeting. We started the year talking about how we were going to adapt our business model to emerging technologies. Very interestingly, we were talking very much about what our digital roadmap would look like in the context of serving the development community, so people that are developing pharmaceutical dosage forms and medicines, and really looking at our service model, which has traditionally been a very face-to-face, hand-holding, close contact type of service model. And we were talking about what technologies would we use to kind of augment that. Never imagining that 2 months later, we would be putting those technologies into practice and really kind of having to react to circumstances as they were presented to us. So I think what I will say is we had obviously a longer term vision for where we were heading in terms of our service capability. But really what was critical in terms of being able to deliver on the year was simplifying and focusing our energies on 3 key priorities, really. It really came down to, first and foremost, what things can we do to keep ourselves, our customers, our team safe, make sure that, the first priorities were, implementing things like social distancing, protective measures, PPE in the workplace, taking people out of the workplace and putting them in remote locations, which again ties into leveraging our digital roadmap. Then keeping operational, working with our supply chain team to make sure materials were positioned in the right locations, keeping our plants operating in that sense. And then ultimately ensuring that we kept our service standards up to scratch. So everything was broken down in the context of those 3 priorities. And all of our other initiatives ultimately got subsumed to those 3 priority areas. So I'm happy to say, we focused on the right things, kind of simplified our approach, tried to communicate, very openly and transparently within the organization. And then I think on top of that, we were able to deliver on some of the original initiatives we planned. We were able to open a new facility, for example, in Melbourne, Australia, a technical development lab. We were able to open a facility in Korea. We added capacity in Shanghai and Brazil in our manufacturing operations there. So in that sense, it was, quite a tumultuous year, but one where we had some very notable achievements as we adjusted to these new dynamics.
Right. And I know you've sort of touched on it already because you're talking about the digital plan, but what did you already have in place which helped you as a business cope with the changes that you needed to make?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think, for the way that we've looked at the long-term development of our capability, we've built an infrastructure that has enabled us to have business continuity planning as part and parcel of our whole mindset. So when we speak to our 11 manufacturing sites around the world, 7 of those are actually designed in a way that they can independently and interchangeably manufacture the same product, right, which is quite a unique capability. We've built a lot of redundancy into our operations. So, for example, as we saw the kind of the wave of the pandemic spread out of China, we did get an early warning signal of that because we have operations in China. Sure. And what we were able to do in the context of continuing to serve our customers was when the China operation was temporarily closed down as China went into lockdown, we were able to now move the supply of our materials to other manufacturing locations. So we had an architecture that would really underpin our ability to kind of adjust to areas where there were challenges to supply. And that was really part of the foundation of our business. So we have systems and capabilities that allow us to be able to kind of not quite seamlessly, but very quickly deploy manufacturing assets to other locations. The same thing goes to our technical service capability as well. We recently had a situation where we've been supplying some European customers out of our US-based technical service lab. So that was a capability that was existing previously, but we hadn't really leveraged it in this sense. The type of scenario planning that we put in place in the past really wasn't designed around the idea that there would be simultaneous disruptions to our ability to operate in a number of places around the world. So it was tested in a very different way compared to what we planned.
Right. And apart from the digitalization, which obviously most companies, if not everyone, has had to move into, whether quick, planned or unplanned, if you like, what other changes did you have to do then to help you cope with the pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, we really, as I alluded to earlier, we really had to accelerate the progression of some of our key initiatives. So when I talk digitalization, I gave the example of how we would build our customer-facing service capability. So we've accelerated a number of programs around our remote serving capability to our customers. But on top of that, we've also progressed some of our digital capabilities in the manufacturing operation. So we have systems now that are designed around more seamlessly integrating the output of the operation, the production area, into our shipping and supply chain channels. So we were able to now leverage the acceleration of those programs in the context of serving some of the challenges that we were facing in this situation. So very much what we had to do was reprioritize. Those are the kind of things that we needed to prioritize ahead of other types of initiatives that we'd planned for the year. So I think really for us, it was our ability to be agile and kind of course correct as circumstances dictated. And that really was predicated on the ability of our leadership team to come together with, several levels of the organization to really collaborate and to work in a global sense to solve some of these challenges. And for the most part, it was really, as I said earlier, getting focused around the key priorities, and then accelerating our progression of certain key initiatives to really try and deliver on our ability to serve.
Right. And if you look at it from the market perspective, how has the market changed since the pandemic?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think unquestionably, the awareness of consumers of medicines and healthcare preparations, the awareness of the importance of those types of products to their quality of life is very much more apparent. And I think the awareness that we have now of the very important role that the pharmaceutical industry, the medical community plays in helping us live the kind of lifestyles that we wish to live is very much apparent. And I think that's something that in the area of the consumer sentiment, I think as a consumer, people are much more focused on some of these priorities that have been long-standing, but have now become more acute. I think as we talk about, for example, some of the challenges of rolling out the vaccine, people are concerned about supply chain security, safety, efficacy. Those are conversations that are occurring in the public space, much more so now than they ever were. And interestingly, that has always been something that's been very much aligned with Colorcon's purpose and vision. So when we look at our purpose statement, it's very much aligned with the idea that we want to, in our own small way, play a part in helping developers of drug products and medicines develop medicines that are more safe, more convenient, and more compliant. And that's really been an integral part of what we've tried to do as an organization for many years. So I think the importance of that has really been elevated in people's minds. So in that sense, it really energizes us even more so to think about how we can help support that in the context of the patient and the community that's pursuing a health and wellness journey.
And what about from a customer's perspective? Because you talked about consumers, but what about from your customers? Have they changed in what their expectations are from you, and have they changed in the way that they are able to work with you? Obviously, there's been a lot of remote access now through necessity, but so have their expectations changed now as well since the pandemic started?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's been some evolution in a number of areas. Of course, our service provision is we're trying to span a whole range of audience members within our customers. So,
sure.
You have different levels of expectations, whether you're talking to the development community. And we have a number of customers that have really remarked that their ability to conduct development trials in our labs here, which are just prototype trials, these are not for clinical purposes or anything. They found it easier to do the development work in our labs virtually than they have in terms of being able to access their own facilities.
Right.
And so in that sense, I think many of the base level expectations are similar, but what we've seen in the development community is a willingness to kind of embrace some of our capabilities above and beyond, because at the end of the day, they have very similar priorities. They have to progress their agenda in terms of developing new medicines. And they're looking for ways to kind of overcome some of these challenges they've been presented with. So in that sense, it's quite consistent with what we've seen in the past, but I think the channel and the way we connect has evolved. I think if we look more so on the supply chain side of things, there's certainly a heightened awareness of the importance of supply chain security. And we've been having a lot of, I believe, very positive conversations with our customers about how the redundancy in our network, in kind of our view of how we source materials and how we proactively procure those materials to have them staged ready for when they want to place demand on us, is a conversation that we've been having with our customers, much more so of late than maybe we have in the past. I think the industry really wants to understand where the risks are and where the bottlenecks are in terms of their ability to supply. And so what we've been able to do is really try and give some transparency to that in terms of our capabilities and where we have strengths, but also trying to address any weaknesses that we find in our supply chain as well, which takes us levels down in terms of into our own supplier base and beyond. So it's been a much deeper conversation in that sense with the supply chain procurement community.
Right. So let's look at your new role as CEO. So what do you see as the key focus for this year?
Yeah. Well, the one thing I would point out, and we kind of touched on it earlier, that I'm pretty new to the role. So 8 weeks in, but 24 years into Colorcon, so I can't argue the case that I'm completely green. What I will also say is I do follow a long line of leaders in the organization that have significant longevity. So I think as I look back over the prior 4 or 5 CEOs, they were all people that had 20+ years of service with Colorcon. So in that sense, when we talk about what's new, oftentimes for us, it's about building on the legacy. It's about sustaining our commitment to the industry. And so in that sense, it's never going to be a radical departure from what we've talked about in the past. But what we've really got much more focused around and much more energized around is our ability to progress the development of enabling technologies. So these are things, as I've kind of already alluded to, these are technologies that really align with the needs of our customers. So we're trying to ensure that we're positioning ourselves in such a way that we can help our customers speak to the ways in which they serve the interests of their own customers. So, for example, really getting oriented around technologies such as product authentication. So these are technologies that would allow the consumer to feel more confident about the authenticity or the security of a particular medicine. So, we launched the soteriarx brand of technologies in 2019. And our commitment this year is to build that platform further, because at the end of the day, serialization is a great solution for that, but it doesn't take it all the way down to the dose. So we're really focused on extending that brand there beyond its current capabilities. The other area that we're very much focused on is an initiative that we call It's kind of like our early stage involvement initiative, and this is really designed around the community of medicine developers that are maybe smaller, more focused maybe on orphan drugs, small patient populations, or drugs that are more targeted towards specialty applications. We've made an investment in our facility here in Harleysville to enable us to handle and to manage higher potency active ingredients. And the idea there is we want to be a partner with the developers of those types of medicines. And so we've expanded our capabilities here beyond what we already had in play. Our goal in 2021 is to really leverage that in terms of supporting our customers' needs going forward. So there's a couple of examples in terms of trying to accelerate our customer speed to market, and then also speak to things such as supply chain security and stay focused on bringing that value to the end consumer of either the medicine or the nutraceutical product.
Right. And as a new CEO, obviously you'll be reviewing the business as everyone does when they take over such a senior role. But in terms of Colorcon's purpose, vision, and mission, how do you see that? And also, how important do you think values and culture are for a business, any business, whether it's a large one like yourselves or a smaller business, particularly in the current climate and that we've been through, both geopolitically and also through the pandemic as well?
Absolutely. I think when we look at our ability to kind of sustain ourselves through this challenging period in 2020 and as we go into 2021, because clearly it's not finished yet, the cultural component of our ability to be successful is really critical. And as I've already alluded to, kind of some of the long-served persons within the organization, we've had a number of people this year that have celebrated over 40 years service with Colorcon and 30 years service with Colorcon. In fact, one of the safety managers at our West Point facility just down the road here recently celebrated 46 years with the company. That's an essential element of our culture. And I think what we've been able to do in the context of being successful is to blend those in the organization that have that tremendous experience together with some of the new talent pool that's been coming into the organization to get the best out of both. And that really comes out of having kind of transparency, open communication, candor. And this year, in past years and in this year, we've really renewed our focus around our core values.
Right.
We've introduced, for example, the concept of a platinum rule. We always had a golden rule in the organization for many years. We've elevated that to the level of being platinum. So that's really about understanding how you want to be treated as a partner. And that really extends not only to Colorcon associates, but to our customers as well. And so really by being focused on those kind of values, it's really an essential component of our ability to execute around our strategies. I think the other areas that we've really been focused on is the concept of global respect. We are a diverse organization, relatively few in number compared to some organizations. We're about 1,400 people around the world, right. But we're tremendously diverse in nationality, ethnicity, background. And that with that diversity, it brings all of these varied perspectives. And I think what we've really, what's been illustrated in this year is as we've been able to kind of leverage different perspectives into solving some of these challenges, we've learned through the process. It's actually made us stronger and better as an organization. So I'm really excited about the opportunity to carry that forward into 2021 and beyond.
So that leads on to, maybe a leading question, as it's a bit early on in your career as CEO, but what do you plan to do differently? And I'm sure every employee will be listening eagerly now to hear your response to that question.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's interesting, actually. We actually are very focused on building on what I just talked about in terms of the diversity, equity, and inclusion program. We conducted an employee survey about a month ago, early part of January, to really try and take the temperature of the organization in this area. And I do have to say, our employees gave us a lot of positive feedback. We were very grateful for the participation level that we got from our employees. but we heard a lot of very good things coming back. Now, admittedly, there's a number of areas we're not satisfied as an organization. It doesn't matter how positively the feedback is received. We also identify areas for improvement and areas for growth as an organization. And so for me, in terms of what we do differently, we have a good track record in this area, but I think we really need to commit to be focused on this going forward. And for us, it's always begun with inclusivity and being able to ensure that there's a place for every voice in the organization to be heard. And I believe we've had a very successful track record in that respect, but I want to continue to engage with the team. It's more challenging now because the traditional way of engaging was obviously to visit and to connect in person. And once again, we've been faced with the challenge and the opportunity presented through virtual connections, but we're actually turning those technologies to our advantage, because I think now I can be more present with more people through the use of these types of tools. And we are finding that the ability to engage, get feedback, to conduct more focused discussions around the areas where we saw opportunity in the DEI survey is something that we're building into our action plan for 2021 and 2022. So that's going to be a key area of focus, because we know there's so many talented people in the organization, and by harnessing that talent, we can only get better. And so that, for me, that's something I'm very personally invested in.
Right. There's one question that just came into my head though. Lately, in the last couple of days, certainly in the UK, there's been quite a lot of press with the head of Goldman Sachs, and also Boris said it, and someone said it at Canary Wharf about when the pandemic's over, everyone's going to be going back to work and back to their offices, and it'll be back as it was normal before. And I'm actually conducting a survey on LinkedIn at the moment, asking that very question. Will you go back to work as normal? Will you like to work from home, or would you like to have a mixture? Not surprisingly, the mixture is winning at the moment by a big margin. As a chief executive of a relatively large organization, what's your view in terms of after the pandemic, when things get back to whatever the new norm is, in terms of working in the office?
Yeah, we've always, I think that's a great question. And of course, I think our perspectives are evolving. If you'd have asked me this question a year ago, I would have likely told you that an essential component of our success is our ability to walk down the corridor and connect with our with our partners, with our peers directly, to have a conversation around the coffee machine, right? What we've proven over this last 12 months is that we can find ways to have those same conversations through different channels. So I think for me, it's really been an eye-opener. Now, I don't think there's a position that I would ever want to adopt to say, we're going to go wholly remote or wholly on site. I think the hybrid model is absolutely a balanced approach. And what we will see, I think, within the Colorcon community is, we need to be attentive to the needs of our employees. I'm very committed to keeping the employees engaged in our mission. And to be honest, if an employee tells me they can be as impactful, whether they're in a remote location using technology or whether they're physically in the facility, I'm going to listen to that and I'm going to respect it. And we're going to figure ways to help make that happen going forward. I don't know what that looks like for certain, but absolutely, I believe a hybridized type of model that gives our employees some flexibility around the way that they prefer to work. Now, I know working from home isn't always as easy as it might appear, especially if you have home environments that are not conducive to working easily. So I think we will be giving our employees the opportunity to kind of share their viewpoints, and I believe that we'll put in place a hybridized model. Now, when we talk about our different locations around the world, we are already seeing different preferences emerge. Sure. If you're talking about in Asia, we tend to get slightly different feedback than we're hearing in the US or in Europe, for that matter. So I think we will be able to kind of then tailor our solution to the needs of the particular employee population.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for being so honest in your answer. I appreciate
Sure.
that.
Yeah.
And that leads on quite nicely to my next question, which is, what do you see as the key development trends in 2021? Both, from a corporate level, but we've already touched on, but also from a market level as well, in terms of technologies and so on.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's interesting to me that as we talk about what we've learned in 2020, what's become apparent and is somewhat amazing is the speed with which the industry's been able to react and respond. Sure. And I believe that our perception of the pharmaceutical industry has been one of slow, deliberate innovation, and I think. And I hope to some extent that we'll have learned a lesson around this, that as an industry, we can be more nimble, that we can develop safe, effective medicines more quickly, and we can build supply chains that allow them to get to the people who need them, to the end consumers, in a safe and effective fashion. So whether we're talking, innovation and development, I think the innovation to some extent will come around the way that we try and help speed products from an initial stage of investigation through till final approval. Now, clearly, the regulatory framework is a constraint that needs to be addressed. But I think for us, I'm excited by the opportunity to partner with our customers to help accelerate that. Because there's a lot of time spent in the development, scale up, process qualification, where many partners to the industry have capabilities, and I just hope that the pharmaceutical industry is willing to be open-minded about reaching out and leveraging those partners in helping them achieve their goals. We stand ready to do that more and more, and so what we're really looking to in terms of our capabilities is how do we become more nimble. Many years ago, I worked as an area technical manager, so I spent a lot of time in the field in production facilities, troubleshooting issues. Some of the technologies that we're looking to progress are designed around the idea that we could put an ATM in any location, anywhere in the world on a 24/7 basis. Now that's an aspiration as it stands right now, but it is certainly a goal, because I think we need to be able to find ways to speak to our customers about the way we're going to help them speed their products to market.
Do you think, though, just touching on that the speed to market, obviously it's been amazing what they've done with the vaccine development, done it in under a year and so on. A lot of that has been because, one, there's been the motivation and the will, but also there's been so much investment in that particular area. And I think, as it's been highlighted a lot of collaboration with people who previously didn't collaborate before. Yeah. Do you think that, particularly when you're looking at small molecules and so on as well, that is possible in that area, and that you'll still see this collaboration carry on into other areas going forward now?
Yeah, I hope so. That's all I can say, is I hope so. We've had a number of examples, interestingly, getting back to my my case that I talked about in terms of my technical role. We've had examples in 2020 where we've partnered with a very small drug developer in partnership with maybe a contract development and manufacturing organization and another large multinational partner. And we've been able to bring all three of those stakeholders together, or we've been part of a group coming together. I won't say we brought them together, where we got all three or four of us around the virtual table in a very collaborative, constructive sense. Now, this was a small molecule development activity. I would have to say I remember those examples being very few and far between in the past. I think it's somewhat a reflection of kind of some of the fresh talent coming into the industry that's thinking differently about how they approach development, and being willing to reach out for services and support that maybe previously they felt were within their core competencies, but they're willing to recognize that there might be expertise outside the organization that they have to bring to bear. And so we are seeing glimpses of it. We are trying to position ourselves to help in our own way sustain that going forward. So my expectation is that the collaboration will be the key going forward, as it is within our organization in terms of our successful execution.
Perfect. Well, that leads on to my final question, actually, which is, what would be your New Year's, although I know we're into March now, but what would be your New Year's message to everybody, particularly as a new CEO, to anyone watching this right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's not one message. Well, it's kind of a similar message. I would, first and foremost, I just have to say thanks to the Colorcon organization. The team really stepped up in 2020. They really showed, ourselves, the organization, and I believe our customers the best that we have to offer. And I want to be sure that they understand that the leadership, myself and the leadership, really appreciate that. And it gives me tremendous optimism for the future, because I think we've been tested, as the industry has. We've come through it with some, bruises along the way, but I think those bruises will heal over time and will be stronger as a result. Now, that being said, I also want to thank, our customers for, staying with us, remaining faithful to Colorcon. We've done the best that we can to continue to serve and support. And I don't think that, in our time of getting through some of the periods of very high demand from our customers, I don't think a shipment went late. So I have to take my hat off to the patience of our customers and also the commitment of the Colorcon people. But I think the key thing for me is that this situation has helped us have opportunities to build trust with our customers and really build partnership. And so I think for me, as I look forward, our vision statement is really to be the trusted partner across the pharmaceutical value chain. And so that's really what I'm committed to in terms of going forward with our current customers and future customers, is really trying to explore and discover how we can continue to succeed as partners together in that mission.
Brilliant. Well, Simon, thank you very much for that. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me. I really much appreciate it. As I know, as a new CEO, you must have your timetable or your diary filled up for you consistently. So I appreciate the time to talk to me today. I wish you lots of success in the new role, but a fantastic 2021 anyway for you, your loved ones, the business. And I hope you have a successful, happy and healthy 2021.
Thank you very much, Rizwan. It's been an absolute pleasure. I reflect all of those sentiments back to you and back to the viewers and the audience that hopefully join us. And thank you very much as well for the time you've granted me today. I appreciate it.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Simon. And if you'd like to know more from Simon, feel free to leave a comment below the video. I'm sure Simon will be happy to answer any questions you've got. You can message me directly. And if you'd like to know more about Colorcon, the link to the website will be above the video as well, so you can find out more about Colorcon and what they do as well, if you'd like to know more. So all that's going to say is, as always, Simon, thank you very much. Thank you for watching. And until next time, as always, stay well and stay safe. Bye-bye.